Hi, this is Anubindra from SimEvents Academy. This video is fully dedicated to the events which are basically heartbeat of the CloudSim simulation environment. This is one of the very important concept of this particular understanding of CloudSim course, because until unless you doesn't understand the event, you will not be able to correlate with how the exact working is happening at the background in the code execution, right? So before I start with the basic code kind of thing, I will be talking about the basic structure, that how every communication happen within the system, right? So as we have seen in our first video, this particular so we have one cloud information service entity, right? We have one data center entity which itself holds some host on which some VM will be hosted. Then we have a broker, right? So each of these entities are communicating with each other, but these communication will have some specific type of code words which resemble some specific type of operation to be performed, like right. So if I start with the flow of the simulation, that how the simulation works on the basis of the events. So we create all these entities separately, right? Then once all these entities are created, as CIS is a central repository for the cloud-based system, so every resource which can be sent for which can be used for the reservation of execution of some particular task or cloudlet is to be registered with CIS. So every resource which is associated with the for the purpose of the execution is residing in this data center class, right? So this data center actually, once the creation or start entity method of this data center is completed, this sends a particular request or event or communication to the CIS with a code word that please register me or register my details with yourself, so that other people can use my resources for the execution purpose, right? So this let's say this code word is register resource, right? So this is the one code word which data center sends for registering itself with the CIS, right? Then once this registration is done and acknowledgement is sent to the data center, that CIS says that okay, I've registered you with me and I will share your details with others. Once broker has some cloudlets to execute, right? So broker sends a request to CIS for getting the list of the resources which is to be used for executing these cloudlets, right? So broker may send a request for resource, right? Now this request for a resource will further internally send some more request, and that is in the form of like data. This broker gets detail from some CIS and then sends the request to data center for its characteristics, right? So these are kind of code words which they use. Now once the characteristics are with the broker, then broker needs to submit some cloudlet. Now that cloudlet is to be submitted on some VM. Now data center has some host which are available to be allocated to some VM, right? So broker will first request data center for VM creation. Once the VM is created, data center will send the acknowledgement back that okay, VM is created. Now once the acknowledgement is received by the broker, broker sends to the data center that please submit this cloudlet for execution, right? So data center internally takes care about this cloudlet, whichever is there to for the execution. It assigns it to some VM which has been created recently, and once the execution is over, data center again sends back a communication to the broker that cloudlets are finished their execution, right? Cloudlet execution of cloudlets is finished. So these are some set of communication which happens, right? So all these things will definitely hold all these communication will definitely hold some sort of data, right? So if you try to identify the data, then if you have studied about the data communication part, then every communication between two entities will hold some details, like who is the sender. Okay, like for this register resource, this particular communication will always look for that who is the sender of this communication and who is the destination for this communication. So here we have data center as a sender and CIS as a destination to which this particular request is to be sent. Then what kind of resources there? So data center is there, so there must be some ID associated with this data center. So let's say this ID is 2. So this 2 will be sent as a data to this particular CIS for registration purpose, right? That this ID is 2 and this is unique in this environment. You use this particular ID for further information purpose, right? Now along with that, what kind of event it is it some kind of send or receive or some sort of thing? So these details are very much important to keep a communication up and running with a very authentic way or channel, right? So this whole scenario is basically managed by one class in your CloudSim project, that is the CloudSim.java class, right? This CloudSim.java class is existing in the source folder, and that source folder has org.cloudbus.cloudsim.core package, and in that package you will find the SimEvent.java, right? Now this SimEvent.java has some sort of variables which keeps track of all the details. Like I said, the source, so here it is the entity source, ENT-DST, that is the destination. Here is the tag. Now this tag is, you can associate this variable like the codes, that is register resource, request resource, characteristics, VM creation, acknowledgement, and so on, whatever you want to say. Then there is a data variable which is of object type. Then there is one E type. Now this E type is basically a variable which hold 4 types of values. So if I go in detail of this, any of the event which happens in your CloudSim is basically between these 4 events. So first event is eNull. This resembles null events, right? Second is send. This resembles communication between entities, or you can say assignment of task from source to destination, right? Then there is hold underscore done. This is for putting a hold in simulation, right? And last one is I believe create. This is this thing is in caps, so you can keep tracked. So this create is for I think it is for some entity creation purpose, but I'm not sure because I've not seen any event till date containing this particular type of e type, right? So what I suggest you is to look more for this, but for all these three I'm pretty sure they are not they are used for these purposes only, right? So each of these particular e type is provided with some integer value. Now this is resembled by 0, this is resembled by 1, this is resembled by 2, and this is resembled by 3. So if you come and see in your sim event class, you will see that this particular e type is of integer. Time another variable is there which is basically used for keeping a note that when this particular event is to be executed, right? Now end waiting time is basically a time that the event was removed from the queue for service. So this is basically that how much this is basically to keep track of that how much time has been spent for waiting for execution. Next is entity source. So this holds the integer ID of that particular entity. Destination is the ID of that particular entity on which that particular event is to be executed. Then tag will tell that what kind of event is to be processed or what kind of task is to be done, and data will hold the particular value that which will be used during that particular event happening, right? And these are the 4 constant final variables which are used for keeping track of e types. So whatever we do in this video will only hold this particular event, that is send, because we will be sending the data between entities only. And one more important thing is that whatever ID is there or whatever entity is there as a destination will be responsible for executing that particular code event, right? So please make a note, whatever the entity is provided in the destination variable will be responsible for executing that particular type of event code, right? So next thing is because this event is associated with some entity, so and that entity to whichever entity this event is associated, and on whichever the entity this particular event is to be executed must have a particular method named as the process event, right? So process event is the method which actually matches that what kind of tag is there and what kind of method is to be called or executed corresponding to that particular tag, right? So these are the few important things. So we have different entities here. One is this particular example, this CloudSim example 1 will be dealing with the cloud information service entity, data center broker entity, and the data center class entity, right? Data center normal entity, right? So these are the 3 basic entities to which this particular example will be quoting. So whenever I execute this particular example, this will create a particular log file into this folder, that is c.log. And that inside that C drive I have a log folder, right? Now this thing is being added by me to make some more clarity to this video. So for this purpose I have created one new class, that is print file Java. I will be posting the code of this particular class along with the video, and another is the method named as custom toString method, which I have defined in SimEvent.java class, right? So this basically responsible for printing or keeping the log of the events which are been generated during this simulation, right? So once I execute this particular example, this file will be created, right? And you will see that what happens exactly. So let's run it. So once you execute this particular example, you will see this default messaging, but there are a lot of events happening between these messages, right? So I will be comparing these messages with the file which has been created right now as a log. So if I show you that start CloudSim example 1 initializing starting CloudSim version 3.0 data center _0 is starting. So if you see, first 4 lines are okay, there are no problem. Then after in your output you will see that broker is starting. Now between these two messages there are 2 events is being generated. One event says send. Oh, sorry, there is only one event. The event says that data center has called a start entity method, and that start entity method actually derived a new event which says this event type is send, right? The tag associated with this event type is register resource. The source which initiated this particular event is data center _0, right? This is the name which you have given, right? So if you see data center 0, this is the name which you have given to your data center while you create the data center in your CloudSim example 1. Then destination says is cloud information service. The time at which this event is to be called is 0.0. The end time is 0.0. This is the default time. And then if you see, the data is 2. Now the data is 2. This 2 resembles the ID of the data center. So by default, whenever you create your whenever you start your particular simulation, by default the CIS is given the value 0. This is the ID, because all the entities are placed in entities list. So CIS will be on the 0 index. Shutdown entity is on 1 index. Then data centers. Now first this is created, then data centers are created. So from 2 to next onwards, whatever the number of data centers are there, and once the data center creation is over, then you create a broker. So whatever the ID, so in our case this is 3, right? So 1 0 1 2 3, these are the IDs. Whereas if there are more than one data centers, then this broker ID will become n+1, right? So this is how you can keep track of the IDs. This is the default format, and this is not at all changed, right? So once you send data to, so that means you are sending the ID of data center to the cloud information service, that please register this resource so that this can be further assigned to the cloudlets once it is requested for execution, right? Now then broker is started. Now broker calls its start entity method and creates an event which says resource characteristics request are required. Now the source is broker and the destination is broker, and the start time is 0.0, end time is 0.0. So these 2 events are the first 2 events which are always called during the simulation. So let's see that what exactly happens. Now it says sources data center _0 and cloud information services the destination. So as I said, that whatever the destination is provided in the event is basically responsible for executing that particular event. So if this particular destination is responsible for executing that particular event, that is register resource, that means this particular cloud information service class must be having some process event method, as it is here, process event method, and that process event method must have the register resource case, right? So we have a register resource case. So that means corresponding to this register resource case, following instruction will be executed. So every time you create an event, that means you are actually going to call the process event method of that particular destination class, and in that particular process event method there must be some kind of tag which is associated with some set of instructions which are going to be executed. So this is how your simulation process work. Now if you haven't seen my previous videos, you need to understand that these tags are basically the constants which are already provided in the CloudSim tags.java class, right? So they have some specific meaning to each of the tag. You can read them, you can understand. They are very easy to understand, and there is no much complicated details are provided here. You just need to learn them, that which particular tag will be responsible for what type of event, right? So this is how the event thing is called, right? So next, if you see, broker is the source and broker is the destination. So that means in your data center broker class, there must be a process event method which will be holding the resource underscore characteristics underscore request tag. So let's go in data center broker class and let's see, in process event method there is a resource underscore characteristics underscore request. So that this particular case further calls a method which is provided within your data center broker class. And if you see what is happening inside, this is getting the this is setting the data center ID list, then getting the characteristics and all, and again generating a new event with the particular resource characteristics tag. Now if you see the log, this resource characteristics is the next event which is to be called. Now this event is between the broker and the data center 0. Time on which this particular event is to be called is 0.0, and the data which is shared here is the 3. Now 3 here is basically the broker. Now as I have already defined in this, that the entities have some specific IDs associated with their name. So CIS is 0, shutdown is 1, data center is 2, and the broker is 3. So data provided here is the 3. So that means whatever the resource characteristics are there, a broker is asking to the data center, and in the next event if you see, the resource characteristics are sent from data center 0 to the broker, right? So this is the request, this is the response of that request, and if you see, the data is the object of the data center characteristics. So whatever the characteristics are defined for data center 0 are holding in data center characteristics object and is sent to the broker, right? So this is how things happen. So once the broker is available with all the resource characteristics, it sends a request for VM, create and its acknowledgement between the broker and the data center, right? And then for the purpose of acknowledgement, data center 0 sends back to the broker, but now the time is 0.1, right? So this is our request is sent, response is sent. Now again, Cloud Summit. Now once everything is available, we have virtual machines available within our data centers, so we can submit our cloudlets now. Now this example has only one cloudlet. So I will be this particular example or this particular simulation will be first submitting the cloudlets from broker to data center. Now data center itself creates an event and that event will be associated with the VM underscore data center underscore event. So in this, the execution process is done. So this is the main event for execution of the CloudSims after the submission. So submission is the request by the broker to the data center. Then data center itself creates an event for himself that please execute this under VM underscore data center underscore event tag. Once the execution is over, this again data center sends back the response to the broker with the cloudlet return tag, right? And with more details that this is the time when this event is to be called, and this is the data. So if you see during for cloudlet submit, we have sent a particular data, that is cloudlet, from broker to the data center. Then during the return, we have again sent the cloudlet object from data center to the broker. So this is the same data, but here it is the raw data, here it is the process data. So every detail, like how much time has been spent in execution, how much time has been spent in the waiting and all, So these details are shared by the data center to the broker. So once this is over, again broker check that are there any new cloudlets is to be executed. If nothing is available, you destroy the VM. But VM is, again, for destroying the VM, you use event tag, that is VM underscore destroy. Source who is requesting the destroy of VM is broker. Who the destination who is executing this particular tag is the data center 0, and the time is provided, and which virtual machine is to be deleted is also provided as data, right? So this is how you share data between entities and you perform your event. Now once everything is over, simulation tag is initiated between the broker and broker. So that means broker itself starts the end of the simulation process. Then it starts shutdowning every entity which is working in simulation, and at last it prints the output. So this is how the scenario works. So at the end, if I give you a brief about that how things happen, is very first thing which happens is the data center sends a register resource request to CIS, right? Now after this, broker send to broker for let's see, here is resource characteristics request. So let's shorten this, resource characteristics request. Now then again broker sends a request for resource characteristics to data center. Then data center sends back to broker as a object of data center characteristics class, right? Now once this is done, broker has all the characteristics. It sends a request, right? So if you see, it sends a request for VM create with acknowledgement. So it sends a request for VM create acknowledgement to data center, and corresponding to that, data center sends acknowledgement of VM to broker, right? So once this is created, then if you see, the cloudlets are submitted. So broker submit cloudlet submit is sent to data center. Now data center send itself VM underscore data center event, right? So in this, the data center identifies which VM is available and to which the this cloudlet is to be assigned. Then once that is over, cloudlet returns the between data center to broker. Then once everything is over, broker sends VM destroy to data center. Then again broker sends itself and simulation, and things are over. So these are the following set of steps which happen in a sequence. This is the minimal set of events which you find in every example. This is the minimum set. whereas if you want to see more, so let's say we have more than 2 data centers, so you will find 2 requests related to this, right? Then again 2 requests will be here. Then once, let's say we have more than one, let's say we have 2 VMs, then you will see 2 requests for this VM. Then let's say we have 10 cloudlets, so that means these requests will be 10 times, right? And same for the rest of them, right? So 10 for this, 10 for this, 10 for this, then 10 for sorry, because we have 2 VMs, so we have 2 VMs to destroy. End of simulation is done and everything is over. So these steps are basically the minimal set of steps which happens every time you run your simulation, right? So this is how your simulation process uses the events to work on everything, right? So for your information, this CloudSim event is very important class. If this particular class doesn't exist, that means your simulation work will not work, right? So with all these details, I would like to end this video, and I request all the viewers to please put your feedback related to this particular video or this particular set of video course, and please send your feedback on hello@superwits.com, or you can share it on our Facebook page, and this page is with the name of Superwits Academy. And your valuable feedbacks will be appreciated. It will help us to improve, and please let us know if in case if you are not through with this concept which we have covered in this video, we can come up with some more detailed part of this if you request us, because this particular video is very important to understand the whole concept of simulation in CloudSim. If you understood this concept, I can guarantee you can work on any kind of problem implementation in this particular CloudSim project. If you're not through with this concept, you will not be able to implement any of the thing efficiently in this particular CloudSim project, right? So with this, I sign off. Thank you very much for watching.